Talking about human impact on biodiversity. So what does that mean? How do human society and our needs affect the environment around us? All right. Make sure you write down the questions that are inside of the lecture. Please don't just copy what you see on each slide. You must be able to actually be able to hear what I'm saying. So you have to watch the video, write down the questions. I will be checking your notes for those questions. All right. So first, let's talk about some of the changes that happen to our ecosystem. What are some adverse changes to an ecosystem? Adverse means bad. So think about it for a second. Write this down. What are adverse changes to an ecosystem? Write down two or three. Write down three. Three things that you think are adverse changes to an ecosystem, and then we'll continue. Now that you've written down some adverse situation that can happen to an ecosystem, let's talk about the things that are inside of the ecosystem that makes it useful for us. We have our renewable resources, solar energy, water, wind. Then we have our non-renewable resources, phosphate, oil, limestone, fossil fuels, more things like that. We'll talk a little bit more in the next slides. Understand, renewable, something that is renewable, you can keep using it, and non-renewable means you use it and you're done with it. Just another way to say it, renewable resources can be replenished. That means I can use it, give it some time, it comes back up. Use it, leave it alone, leave it some time, let it come back up. All right. Non-renewable resource, in contrast, is something that's limited by quantity. That means if I'm going to make gas for a car, well, there's only so much oil in the earth that I can use. It's not going to come back. It takes millions upon millions of years to make that, so I can't use it all up and expect it to come right back. All right. Unlike a tree, chop that down, put it into the ground, let it grow. 10 years, I mean, a whole nother tree. Okay. So as we move further on, I want you guys to tell me if it's a renewable or non-renewable resource. So we have wind, water, non-renewable, renewable. Tell me what it is. Sun, non-renewable, renewable. Tell me what it is. Trees, non-renewable, renewable. Tell me what it is. Probably got you off guard on this one, but livestock, animals, chickens, the things we eat, renewable, non-renewable. Tell me what it is. Oil, non-renewable, renewable. Tell me what it is. Natural gas, non-renewable, renewable. Tell me what it is. And just a quick history lesson. I know you guys probably know this from middle school, but our gases and oils, natural gases and oils, and our porous rock like limestone and stuff are found deep underground. They're created through millions of years of decomposition from dead plants and dead animals. So they usually take a long time for them to happen. Matter of fact, some of them have been created, or it took the entirety of the human history. That means the million years the humans have been on the planet, 2 million years it took for just to create the gas and oil that we use for our cars. Okay, so you can't just throw some dead things in the ground and wait and expect to have it by Tuesday. Okay, so let's think about it. Let our powers combine. I got a question coming up on the next slide. All right, if you guys don't know, this is Captain Planet, one of the best 80s and early 90s cartoons. I know y'all was like not even thought about yet, but I'm letting you know. Earth, water, wind, oh no, fire. That's supposed to be fire. Fire, hearts. When your powers combine, I am Captain Planet. He's my hero. I'm gonna take it back to zero. Yeah, I'm excited. Sing with me. No. All right, here we go. Can a renewable resource become a non-renewable resource? That means those things that I said that you can use over and over and over and over and over and over again. Can you use them so much and you don't give it any time to replenish, can you use them up all the way to the point that they completely run out? So the answer to that question, can we take our renewable resources like trees and wind and sunlight and overuse them to a point where you can't use them anymore? Well, yeah, you can. Now, renewable resources can be limited due to damage caused. Plants, trees, if you chop every single tree down and doesn't give it a chance to recover, you run out. All right. Sunlight, we continually pollute the sky and put pollution into the sky and carbon dioxide and block out the sun. You can't even get solar light anymore. So yes, we absolutely can overuse or damage our natural resources. And how is it possible that we damage our natural resources that our planet been given to us for hundreds of millions of years? Pollution. Deforestation, that means chopping down every single tree that's out there, especially in the rainforest. Rainforests are so important. When I'm talking about they're more important than they are as important as the air that you breathe. You chop them down, you suffocate. All right? Real talk. You chop all the trees down. We learned about that photosynthesis, but almost 50%, I think 40% of the oxygen that you breathe come from the rainforests. All right, and there's not a whole bunch of them left. Who loves chicken? Who loves steak? Who loves all that delicious food that we get from the grocery store? Well, guess what? That comes from farming. And if we got to be a lot of farm animals, right? And you got to make food for them. Well, guess what? That leads to overgrazing and overharvesting. All right. And if you overgraze and overplant food into the ground, the soil gets used up all the nutrients, and the soil can no longer plant or be used for feeding these animals. And that leads to unfarmable land. Overgrazing and overharvesting can lead to large parts of the land that cannot even sustain any kind of plant life. This is how we create deserts. With overgrazing and overharvesting is on the land, and overfishing and overhunting on the sea. Same thing. We eating up everything on the planet, and if you eat up everything, there's nothing left to eat. So to rehash, our overuse of non-renewable resources is damaging our renewable resources. That means we continue using pollution, fossil fuels, carbon dioxide into the air. We're polluting our planet. Well, it's going to take away some of those renewable resources that we love so much because they're free. You don't have to use any money to use them, all right? And then what makes it just as bad, if not worse, is destroying entire ecosystems. That means imagine an ecosystem being your house, and then all of a sudden somebody just throw trash into your house. You're gonna want to whoop somebody face in, right? Well, this is what we're doing to all the animals inside of our planet, and they're destroying their ecosystem, and they don't know how to clean it up. And so they're not only are we destroying their homes, which is our home as well, we're killing them as well. Imagine they live in a sea and we throw oil into it. Well, they can't swim with that oil, and it'd be life threatening. Okay, so destroying our ecosystem. Next, carbon dioxide released by these factories and by your cars and by your breath can lead to acid rain. Carbon dioxide and rain can lead to carbonic acid, which is kind of the acid that's in your sodas. But if you add enough of it to the atmosphere, it makes the rain acidic. I actually been burnt by acid rain when I lived in DC because I lived next to a power plant. And so I can tell you right now, it's no fun. It burnt my skin, leave little spots, okay? But I can at least run in the house and say, oh my God, rain. Plants can't do that. Animals can't do that. So by us polluting the planet, we're creating poisonous rain that's killing living things. All right. So we need to stop leaving our carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide in large quantities. So a quick visualization of this acid rain is created by humans and in industries that release sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, carbon dioxide. All this goes into our atmosphere. It mixes with the clouds, then it rains back down on the land, the lakes where we drink our water, and then also, oopsie, sorry about that, forests that can cause damage to all living organisms in different ecosystems. So another way that we're destroying our planet, filling the atmosphere with greenhouse gases. The number one greenhouse gas is, everybody should know this one, it comes out your mouth. Carbon dioxide, okay? Not only are we creating it from our breathing, we create it from the animals that we eat, because you have to grow a cow, he has to breathe oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. The chickens that we eat, so every single animal that we make to eat produces carbon dioxide. So we have billions of those. Then we're driving around cars, carbon dioxide. Then we're building these factories so it can make your lights work, carbon dioxide. And so we're continuously adding all this gas into the atmosphere, and what happens is it acts like a blanket over the planet. So when the sun pours down heat from outer space, hits our planet, the sun energy gets trapped on our planet and increases the temperature. What I want you to do is look up Venus. Do that now, Google on your phone, whatever you have to do, and tell me Why is Venus, which is almost just like Earth a couple billions of years ago, why is it burning hot? Matter of fact, we sent a space probe there back in the early 2000s when y'all was like born, and it lasted about 2 hours. The planet was so hot it melted the metal that was able to fly through outer space. Tell me why. Carbon dioxide is the major greenhouse gas. Make sure you have that down. Carbon dioxide is horrible, right? However, there are a very, very, very good reason for it because there's something inside of our planet that actually needs carbon dioxide to survive. It uses the process of photosynthesis because it brings in carbon dioxide, it brings in water, H2O, and it releases, guess what? Energy for us to eat and oxygen for us to breathe. These magical creatures that do this are plants, trees. But what would happen if you start chopping them down? So if you chop them down, there's nothing to go ahead and start breaking down this carbon dioxide and turning it into oxygen. So we start having issues where it gets stuck in the atmosphere. We lose the oxygen that we breathe, and carbon dioxide heats up the planet because it acts like a blanket. So we gotta limit the cutting down of our trees. There are some bacteria that can actually photosynthesize, cyanobacteria, algae that can actually produce oxygen for us. Obviously, you don't want too much of that in the water because other animals can't really live with it, but some of it is good. So having too much of that is bad, having some of it is good. So a mix of trees and bacteria that can actually produce oxygen is great for our environment and our ecosystem. Okay. So if you increase the temperature of the planet, guess what you get? Warming, the global warming, gradual increase of the planet's temperature, gradual increase of the temperature, Earth average temperature. So all that means is the planet's getting hotter. I tell you right now, playing football and being outside when I was in y'all guys' age, it's a completely different temperature. If you watch the news and you see the temperature, new high. Oh my God, we have record highs. Guess why that's happening? Global warming. But not just because, oh, it's hot, that's bad. It leads to drier plants, which leads to more severe forest fires. It leads to the melting of the polar ice caps, which is horrible. Imagine, because we live in Miami and the beach is right there. Imagine if you add trillions and billions and quadrillion gallons of water to the ocean. Well, the ocean is going to rise. And if the ocean rises and the beaches are right there, guess where the water's going to come? Onto the shore and start flooding our homes and houses, and we can't live on water. We're not fish, and so the land is gone. All right, it won't be all of it, but New York, DC, California, Texas, Florida, those places will be gone. That's a lot of places. All right. So how do those places leave? The rising of the sea levels, and so what happens is the water rises and it floods onto our beaches, and then not only to our beaches, if it gets high enough, it starts to flood into residential areas. We can actually see this happening if you go back to Katrina. I think you guys are like probably in elementary school or maybe even middle school. Katrina was a hurricane that dropped so much water into Louisiana and New Orleans, and it broke the levees, which tries to hold back the ocean because they're already at sea level. Broke those levees and completely flooded that area. People started to drown in their homes. Okay, go look up Katrina. You don't have to write anything about that. I just want you guys to take a look at that and read an article about it and understand how that happened. So Miami's coastline is not quite like this right now. Some of it is flooded already, but it's not horrible. But Miami coastline back in about 2012, 2015. Let's look what will happen in about 10 years if we continue at our current rate of pollution, which has dropped since then. But let's take a look. In less than 10 years, well, in 10 years, all that light blue is water. See those buildings that cost millions and billions of dollars will be underwater. And if you live in them, can't live in them anymore. All right. So understand these rising sea levels are very detrimental financially, socially, economically. All those things are just bad because it costs us money. This leads to climate change. Obviously, we go from more moderate, nice climate changes to where trees can grow to dry desert-like climates, because guess what? We're running out of polar ice caps. We're having flooding. We having dry heat burning down and killing plant life, and animals are dying off because the food that they eat is gone. Remember, we learned about the pyramids in our ecosystem. You take away our plants, and the animals that eat that, which are your primary consumers, are gone, and then everything above that is gone, and then boop, everything starts to die. So it's very important. We got to stop heating up this planet. Because if we don't, less snow, more heat waves, more floods, and more intense natural disasters. For instance, if you have not noticed, you probably haven't, there has been more major hurricanes in the last 10 years than they have been in the combined history of hurricanes. That is crazy. That means there has been more. We might not have been hit by all of them, but there have been more major hurricanes. Matter of fact, we have had 2 hurricanes that have been in the top 5 of most powerful hurricanes in the history of recording hurricanes. Yes, we keep destroying this planet. We're going to have hurricanes that are so powerful that they hit land, they probably won't stop. Matter of fact, there was a hurricane not too long ago. I forget the name of this hurricane, and it just sat over the Bahamas for like a week, and it never stopped, completely destroying the Bahamas. That is crazy. Hurricanes are supposed to get weaker over land. It did not get weaker because it was so strong. It just sat and destroyed just destroyed them. Okay, this is happening because we are heating up the planet. Hot temperatures go into our atmosphere, creating more powerful storms, and creating these more powerful storms is going to cause a lot of damage, a lot of deaths, and a lot of loss of life. Okay. So the changing of these different environmental factors are causing changes in our entire ecosystem, and we have to be aware. So polar bears, polar ice caps are melting. Well, that means there's less land for them to be on to hunt. So that means there's less food. And so if the polar bear's ecosystem is changing, less land for them to stand on, and less fish for them to hunt, what will happen to the polar bears? They become these type of creatures. This is an actual picture of a polar bear. They run out of food. They're starving. They're becoming much smaller. They are dying because we are changing their ecosystem. Okay, either they adapt and change to it, or they die. And as you can see from this picture, it's not a very good look. Write down this question. Write down the answer. How do we change the negative impact we currently have on our local and global ecosystem? So, what I just said, how do we change it? Some examples of that should be sustainable energy. That means energy that we can use over and over and over. Renewable resource, because we are not trying to use stuff that's going to run out. And something that does not damage our natural resources, providing human needs while preserving our natural resource. Don't forget, Friday, we have our exam. You guys have to do your Friday exams on quizzes, Edpuzzle tomorrow. Wednesday, we need to come on to Edmodo and answer your questions that are on Edmodo. And then Thursday, I'm having a hard time. We have a Zoom meeting. That Zoom meeting, you go ahead, you come on, you get to talk to me, we answer a few questions. If you don't do that on Edmodo, you need to I will post a question. You need to answer that question and then post a question of your own. That means you need to answer my question, post a question of your own, and one of your other students need to come and answer that question. That means you have to go ahead and answer somebody else's question. Again, just in case this seems like very hard, because we've been doing this for 3 weeks now, and I'm not getting a lot of people doing this, I'm going to have a hard time with it, and what's going to happen is it's going to change everything that I do. That means you answer my question. You post a question, and then you go ahead and answer somebody else's question. I've only been getting like 5 or 6 people doing that. If I start having the people, I know you guys are seeing this because I had like 90 people do the exam, but you're not doing the discussion question. If I don't start getting at least 50 people doing that, we're going to have a problem. I'm going to change everything. And then this test you guys have that's coming up this week, it already has jumped up to 59 questions because of that. Next time it's going to be 110. All right, I'm letting you guys know now. Please do the things that I'm asking you, because I know most of you guys are seeing this. Okay. Let's try to finish this. I want to make sure this video stays a little bit under 25 minutes. Biodiversity. What is biodiversity? Why do we need it? And loss of biodiversity, what it is. First, we're going to talk about what is biodiversity. Bio means life. Diversity means different or variation. That means a measure of the variety, different, amongst organisms in different ecosystems, different life in different locations. That's all it means. So it just means biodiversity, good to have different life. Oh, I like that black. I like that skinny. I like the big. I like the thick. I like the skinny. I like the long hair, short hair, green eyes, blue eyes, brown eyes. I like facial hair. I like muscles. I like he look a little chunky. All it means is different type of life. So biodiversity is already also being damaged by this pollution that we talked about in the last one. So you like different kind of life? Well, we got to stop destroying it. Our misuse and abuse of our natural resources is causing a huge loss of biodiversity, which is horrible, horrible. And when I talk about loss of biodiversity, I'm talking about people dying. The genetic variation needed for natural selection to occur, remember natural selection is the strongest, or sorry, the most adapted individuals surviving in an environment. That means their species or their genes is propagated because they're being reproduced, are dying just because we're destroying the environment. And so that loss of biodiversity and loss of natural selection can end an entire species. When I was younger, before you guys were born, there was a creature called the dodo. It's a bird that looked kind of like a duck. It died when I was like 6 because it went extinct because of our destruction of the natural world. You can look it up. Okay. So loss of biodiversity doesn't just mean the loss of species and genes. It also means that we're losing these different ecosystems because we're not just killing those creatures, but we're destroying the ecosystem that they are in. So we're losing species, that's different animals, genes, losing their genetic code, and we're losing the environment they live in, the ecosystem. So what is biodiversity? Biodiversity is a variation of genes, species, and ecosystems. And all three of those are being destroyed by our lack of understanding of our environment and or caring. Okay. By the way, if you look it up, Trump suspended the World Health Summit. I think it's World Health Summit because he says we're spending too much money. I think it's kind of important to make sure the whole planet doesn't die because we're destroying it. Okay. So understand, genes, species, and ecosystems are very. And the more diverse it is, the better. Matter of fact, if you guys are talking about, oh man, we want a cure for COVID-19, we don't want to be in our house anymore. Guess how we find cures to diseases? Well, a lot of times you find them from different organisms that are already immune or have resistances to disease resistance, varied diet, body size. So those different genes can be found in these different animals and we can manipulate them to use them for ourselves. However, if you kill the species before you even get a chance to study them, you never find out what their abilities can be used for us. And so, for instance, bacteria infection, if you cut yourself, oh my God, throw some salt on it, throw some neosporin, or throw some penicillin on it. Penicillin saved millions of lives. Well, guess what? Penicillin came from a fungus, like yeast, like a yeast infection, like for real. Without that, so many people would die just from getting cut because they get infected and they die from it. All right, so understanding loss of biodiversity is super important because we use that biodiversity for our own well-being as humans. Species with more genetic variation or diversity are more resilient to change. So say, for instance, I have a predator that comes into this area. I'm going to eat every single frog up in here, except for the red and blue and black. I'm going to eat all the yellow ones. They taste yummy to me. The other ones, they don't taste so good. Well, guess what? The frog species still survives. Oh, wow. Okay, that's pretty good. They might lose a lot of their population and their diet biodiversity may have gone down, but they can survive. The frog species is not dead completely. Well, imagine if they're all just yellow frogs and that predator comes and yummy, I love me some yellow frogs. I'm going to eat me some yellow frogs, huh? All them frogs gone. And all you have is this blackish red frog and you got one frog. He can't make no babies. He can't reproduce. He cannot continue the cycle of that population. And most likely that species go extinct like the dodo. Okay. And this has happened to 99.9% of the species on our planet, usually from catastrophes like meteors and different things happening to the planet. However, more species have died in the last 50 years of the human Industrial Revolution than almost any other previous section. That's not no major situation where a rock fell from the sky. Okay, we are killing more species than diseases. Humans are like a virus. Okay, drive this force home. This point home. You need to understand ecosystems with more species or more diversity are less vulnerable to change. That means if I got a whole bunch of animals and something bad happens, I lose some, but we're still pretty good. But if I have a whole bunch of animals and they're all the same and something happens, they all die, and it's gone for them. Okay. So human activity, we talked about it in the last section, that reduces biodiversity, makes species, ecosystems, and our world more vulnerable to change and disaster. So us doing dumb stuff like chopping down trees everywhere makes it harder for things to survive. So we talked about what is biodiversity. Life is different, but why do we need it? Natural Nature provides the resources we need to survive, like water and air, and it's free. What's my favorite word? Free. It's free. We don't have to pay for any of this. You don't have to pay for the air that you breathe. You don't got, well, if you go outside into a lake, you drink it, but you don't have to pay for water. If you know how to hunt, you don't have to pay for no food. Go ahead and catch an animal and eat it. So all these things are free, even though, in our society we try to charge people for it. But these things are free. You don't have to pay for it. So a list of these free things are support services: biochemical cycles, soil formation. Oh, I don't gotta go outside and make no soil. Good. Photosynthesis. Oh, I don't gotta go out there and make trees. The trees grow by themselves. And biodiversity. Oh, I don't make these different animals make babies and make them more diverse. This happens naturally if we don't mess it up. Provisioning services, providing food, water, clothing, and fuel for energy. All these things are good. Oh, okay, I get food, got some water. Oh, got me some clothes. Okay, and fuel for energy, solar energy, wind energy, hydro energy, water. So all these things are provided to us, and you don't really got to pay for it. You just got to capture it. Have you ever thought about where all the dead animals that die go? Guess what? Nature takes care of that too. The regulating services, decomposition of the dead, which are by our decomposers, filters our water. How does water get clean when most of it is salty? Well, nature takes care of that. Filtering our air. Wait, don't carbon dioxide and different farts and smells and pollution goes into the air? How does it get filtered? Trees do that. Absorption of carbon dioxide. Trees do that as well. Flood control. Hey, when it rains, why don't it just floods and run everything down? It gets absorbed into the ground, right? Trees help do that too. Regulating climate. If you ever go to an area where there's a lot of trees, like a woods, you'll notice it's a lot cooler than in the city. Who does that? Trees and plants do that too. So chopping down our trees are very bad. And cultural services. Some of you guys are like, what? Cultural services? How many of you guys have been stuck in your house for the last 2, 3 weeks and really want to go outside and, I don't know, just take a walk? Well, cultural services, you take away our nature and you take away our beautiful trees, our oceans and our lakes and the fresh air and the birds chirping in the air. It's going to be a lot different. It'd be like stuck in your house for 3 weeks, and that can get very annoying, and it doesn't help with human psyche. There's actually been some clinical trials shown that it actually hurts the lifespans of humans. Okay. So we already talked about how biodiversity allows them to survive in a change. Well, ecosystems with more biodiversity are better able to provide these services to us. There is no way you could do that without our environment. Imagine trying to go to Mars. No trees, right? No air, right? No, barely any water. No atmosphere. No energy. All those things is because they don't have an ecosystem. You take that away, it's like going to outer space and trying to survive. And humans are throwing that away. Our actions can make species more vulnerable to extinction. That means they all die. The dodo. And we're making entire ecosystems, not just a species, an entire ecosystem. That means imagine every single bird you see, every single plant that you see, all the water around you gone just because we don't want to throw our trash away and we're poisoning the air. It's insane. But some people don't believe in change or global warming, which is actually happening. Okay, look up the dodo. And not only does this hurt other animals and other creatures, it hurts us. Remember, we breathe and we eat and we drink just like any other animal on the planet. So when you take those different resources away from us, humans start to die from it too. My bad, not just 50 years. Within the last 100 years, the rate of extinction has jumped 1,000 times. So if you're looking at this graph, from the 1990s to the 2000s, the rate of extinction has increased by that line right there. Humans' population has also increased, which makes us kind of like exponential growth, kind of like how this coronavirus is growing. But we're also killing other things, just like how the coronavirus is killing humans. Oh, humans are like a virus, aren't they? Yeah. We are definitely destroying our environment, but we have the ability to change that. We're not a virus that just goes around killing things, but we are doing it because we are selfish and not thinking about the environment. But when we start thinking about it, we can still survive and not have to destroy our environment. Well, okay, I know this is a long video. I'm put two PowerPoints together because I'm trying to get this finished for you guys. Last one. Well, you know what? Biodiversity, life, and how it's different. We know why we need it because it gives us a lot of things and it provides different things for us, provisional support. But what happens when you lose it? So I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just going to go ahead and go through it. 7 ways humans are reducing biodiversity and what is happening when we are reducing it. Pollution, already know that one. Global warming, talked about that one. Polar ice caps getting smaller, sea levels are rising. Deforestation, we are taking away the homes and our carbon recycling mechanics of the planet by chopping down trees. Which, by the way, displaces and kills thousands of species at one single time. Okay. So this is an actual example in South America where we have deforestation because they chop down all these trees on our right-hand side to make farmland. And then we have on our left-hand side trees, where thousands of more species survive. That means we have different kind of animals that can give us medicine, different kind of animals that can kill predators that hurt us, can kill diseases, or can help us find cures to diseases. But we're chopping it down for farmland, yeah, which has thousands of less species. For instance, here you may have different kind of creatures. Over here you might have some mice, roaches, some squirrels, and raccoons, and probably that's it. All right. By doing this, we remove the sources of carbon dioxide absorption. We know this: chop down your trees, and you run out of the ability to absorb carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. Hold up, I thought I talked about this one too. You chop down the trees where it has roots that absorbs water. Oh snap, where does the water go? Oh, it runs off. It continues dragging different type of soil and dirt and soot with it to our drinking waters, and it creates more floods, and you have more problems. Oh wait, it doesn't stop there. So these floods not only bring all the soil and nutrients for planting food and for things to grow, it also erodes the soil. That means takes it away. And eventually, as you can tell by this picture, desertification happens. That means, yes, you guessed it, we create deserts by chopping down trees. It's the spread of dry, unproductive land. So what is it called when water is pulled into different drinking waters? Like I said earlier, eutrophication. Whew, that's a hard word to say. Runoff and pollution fills lakes with minerals and causes algae and bacteria growth, which makes, guess what, the water you like to drink undrinkable, and the animals that live in that water, they die. So no more fishing. This one is the one you guys should see the most. Introducing invasive species. When I was younger, there was this skinny little lizard. They're kind of brown, and that's it. However, humans decided, oh my God, we have lizards here, so there's no problem. I want to go catch this giant green iguana, or the lizard that got that little curly tail that look like it can bite you because it's kind of stronger. Those are not native to Florida. What? But they're everywhere. Yes, someone brought a few here, and they start reproducing. Invasive species have no natural predator. They start to eat up the normal creatures that are here, and nothing eats them because they don't know what it is. So they reproduce, killing everything in the environment and destabilizing that ecosystem. It's already happened in the United States. Matter of fact, anacondas, which are pythons, which are the big snakes that wrap around and kill things, they're not native to Florida. Wait, Mr. DeHaty, but there's snakes everywhere. Yep, they taken over. They even eat alligators. So those things live in the Everglades now, but they're not supposed to be here. So we brought them here. So introduction on proposed or by accident, invasive species can prey on native species of that ecosystem and outcompete them. So what does that mean? That means if I have a dog and a cat who lives here, and they eat dog and cat things, but all of a sudden I bring a wolf. Well, say the dog likes to eat cats, but they'll always eat all the cats or the mice or the different creatures. But I bring wolves here and they start eating up all the cats and all the wolves. I mean, all the cats and all the mice. The dogs don't have anything to eat. Their population decreases, and the wolves' population keep going up. Dogs can't kill wolves, but they never usually had to. There's not their environment. So guess what? Dogs die out. Even the wolves at some point will get into a situation where they eat up all the food and they start to die out, and that entire ecosystem can be destroyed. Introducing invasive species is so bad, and what I want you to do is find an example of when humans introduced an invasive species to a population and what happened. All right, please find one, write it down. That's the only thing I want you guys to do from this point right here. And last on that list of 7 is over harvesting. Well, when you plant, chop the food down. When you plant, chop the food down. Guess what? We talked about this already. You start to use up all the nutrients in the ground. However, artificial selection of organisms with specific traits is starting to make those certain traits become more prevalent. So even though we're chopping things out of the ground, we can start using artificial selection and gene manipulation and cloning to kind of mitigate some of these issues that we're doing. And all that means is if we stop planting and chopping our food out the ground as much, and we modify some of our food so it doesn't use up so much of the soil, or it can grow without using soil. Some things can grow without using the soil. We can actually keep our planet in better shape for a longer period of time. Did you know that there are thousands of types of apples? But when you go to this grocery store, do you see thousands of types of apples? No, you only see like 3 or 4 of them because we naturally select the apples that we like, and that's increasing their population, but while doing that, we're decreasing the others. This also includes the hunting and killing of other species to protect one. So, I love my cows and my steak, but we kill wolves who should survive as well because I don't want them to eat my food. Well, if we continue doing that, then they can't eat, right? And if they can't eat because they would naturally eat some of these animals, they die off. And so we need to understand that we can't overhoard and overkill, but we can also destroy their environment and force them to come to ours, and now they're eating our food. So we got to stop chopping down their trees, chopping down their environment, and then we got to stop taking up all the food and killing them to protect ours. Okay.